Hey, this is Robbie Baseball from the Dingers Fantasy Baseball Podcast, and you are listening to Pop Goes Your World.
If you haven't already, subscribe on iTunes. And while you're there, please leave us a rating and review.
And now it's time for our feature presentation.
I'm Chris McBrien, and the pop culture from Generation X is everything to me.
And I'm Derek Myers, and I'm here to educate Chris on the great pop culture of today's generation.
Episode 296, Summer Rental Movie Review. Chris McBrien along with Derek Myers, and this is Pop Goes Your World, the pop culture podcast for the generations. We mentioned previously this summer is really difficult for us, to get into the studio on a consistent basis. Derek, you and I are lucky enough to get a lot of vacation time in our careers.
Yeah.
Because contrary to popular belief, we don't podcast for a living. Shocking, I know. But
yeah, if you can figure out a way for us to get paid for this, I'm all in, man.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll work on it. We'll try and figure that out. Well, as long as we get all this vacation time, that's the main thing. So last time we were out, we ran down our top 5 favorite summer movies, and it's time for a movie review. So I decided to go with Summer Rental from 1985 with John Candy. But before we get to our movie review, what is new in the world of pop culture, my friend?
Well, it is summertime. Mm-hmm. So in addition to taking summer vacation, my wife and I have been taking in concerts, which we tend to do in the summer. Very good. I have 2 awesome concerts that I just want to tell you about. The first one, which is going to be they're both going to be right at the alley for our listeners. The first one is called the Totally Tubular Festival. And this is 9 bands that were big in the 80s that are all performing on one stage. And most of them have like 25 to 35 minutes. They got the tight schedule. Then 10 minutes, then the next band comes on, then 10 minutes, the next band comes on. It was a 6-hour show, 9 bands. I'm just going to read you the list here. So it was, this is the only one I didn't know was this first one. It was the band called the Plimsouls, which I looked up. I knew one of their songs, but I'm like, we actually missed them. We came in late. Then Tommy Two-Tone, who you might know from Jenny Jenny, 8675309.
Yes.
Then Bow Wow Wow, I Want Candy,
yes.
Bow Wow Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Then the Canadian staple Men Without Hats.
Oh man!
Who both opened.
They of course have. They of course have
safety dance.
You remember they also do Pop Goes the World.
Pop Goes the World
versus Pop Goes Your World,
yes.
which we were out here.
But their big hit Safety Dance, they both opened and closed with it, which was awesome.
Really?
Then we were supposed to see the Romantics, Talking in Your Sleep, the Romantics, but they had to cancel. And instead we got, in my opinion, the superior Wang Chung. Everybody Wang Chung tonight.
Nice.
And Wang Chung was amazing. Then
he did Dance Hall Days too, didn't he?
Yes.
Oh, yes. That's awesome.
They were great. They did a tight 35. This. I knew all the songs. Then Modern English, I Melt With You, Modern English, and they were outstanding. They sounded just as good today as they ever did. Then it was Tom Bailey, who is the lead singer of the Thompson Twins, who did all the Thompson Twins' greatest hits.
Nice.
Awesome. And then the headliner, believe it or not, was Thomas Dolby. She Blinded Me With Science,
nice.
Thomas Dolby.
Nice.
And you think, really? He's the headliner? But I think that was partly by design, because Thomas Dolby, for those who maybe aren't familiar with his shtick, he is a one-man band. He literally does all the instruments. It's all on synthesizer and computer, and he's always been that. So all the other bands had like guitars and keyboards and drum kits and all that. But when it was Thomas Dolby, it was just him and this huge synthesizer setup with this big screen. So from a logistics point of view, that made sense to me, because then all the roadies could be packing up everybody else's crap while Thomas Dolby was literally on stage with just his keyboard. So, but no, it was an amazing show. It started at 6, it ended right at midnight. So we got 6 straight hours, 9 bands. It was awesome. And 8 bands. And no, it was a lot of fun, worth every penny. And I believe they're still touring through the rest of the summer. So if you're a big 80s music fan, as I know I am, as I know you are, as I think a lot of listeners might be, totally worth the money. And I knew a lot more songs by a lot of those bands than I thought I did. And it was a great show. It was a lot of fun. So I saw that a couple of weeks ago. Then just last night, I got last minute tickets to see Sammy Hagar, who basically played all of Van Halen's greatest hits.
Oh, nice.
And opening up was Loverboy, working for the Weeknd, Loverboy.
Oh, yeah.
And being from Canada and being from Toronto, Loverboy, Canadian hometown band, because they're Canadian as well, they played almost a full hour, all the greatest hits, knew all the songs.
They had a lot of songs.
So many songs where they were like, oh my God, I forgot they sang this song.
Yeah.
It was Loverboy, and then Sammy Hagar came out and played 2 hours and 15 minutes, 2 hours and 20 minutes. Now, I've seen Van Halen. I saw Van Halen when Sammy Hagar was the lead singer twice before they did their breakup. Then I saw them once where it was both David Lee Roth and Sammy Hagar both were touring with them. Then I saw Van Halen again with just David Lee Roth. And then so this was now my 5th time seeing what we'll call Van Halen, but my 4th time seeing Sammy Hagar. He sounded every bit as good as he did the first time I saw him in the 90s. All the songs, all the hits you would expect, plus some of his Sammy tunes, plus some of his other stuff he's done since then. Amazing show. Totally worth it. I managed to get these last minute tickets for almost face value. Best $100 I spent all summer. So good. So much fun. If you have a chance to see this show, take it. It was amazing.
I always felt that Sammy Hagar with his early stuff, when he did like I Can't Drive 55 and Heavy Metal, his vocals were pretty good, you know? But then when he got into Van Halen, I don't know what happened. He just kicked it up a notch, and his vocals were so good. He's a great singer, man.
Yep.
That would have been awesome.
Well, and his band. So he's got Michael Anthony of Van Halen, who's the bass player. Yep. So Sammy and Michael Anthony have been like buddies since they first went Van Halen, and when it was the whole breakup, those two guys stayed together, whereas the Van Halen brothers took off and did their own thing. So Michael Anthony's still there, and they actually gave him a chance to perform lead vocals on a couple of Van Halen tracks, and they sounded amazing. Like, you never think that the bassist is a good singer, but man, he pulled it off. It was really good. And then the lead guitarist is Stevie. Sorry, I'm blanking on his name. It's oh crap, I'll have to look it up. Sorry, I can't remember. But the drummer is Jason Bonham, who is the son of John Bonham from Led Zeppelin, and it was such a good show. It was so good. If you're into that kind of music, it's like. It was just, I can't say how good it was. And for the money that I had to pay, which was not a ridiculous amount, it was well worth it. Like, I paid.
Whereabouts did you see them? Was it in Toronto?
I saw them here in Toronto at the Bud Stage, which is an outdoor venue. And let me tell you, it was like 40 degrees with the humidity. It was ridiculously hot. And
it does get hot up here in Canada.
And beers were $20. It's like, are you kidding me for this? So I paid more for the drinks over the course of the night than I did for my concert ticket. Like, you just needed cold drinks. So anyway, so had a couple of great concerts. Then I, of course, in the last couple of weeks, I've had a chance to watch a couple of movies. So I'll hit the highlights.
Sure.
I had a chance to watch a brand new one that dropped on Amazon just this week. It's called The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. It's loosely based on a true story. It's sort of a World War II fight the Nazis kind of movie. It's got Henry Cavill, who most people will know as Superman. It's got the guy who plays Reacher in the new John Reacher series on Amazon for the last couple seasons. It's got the guy who was the main lead in Crazy Rich Asians, the really beautiful Asian dude. It's got the guy who is the doctor in the new Star Trek Strange New Worlds. So again, a lot of casts that you're going to watch and go, and Carrie Elways from Princess Bride, he's in it as well. So a lot of people you're watching and go, oh my God, I know all these people. And the movie is amazing. Easy a 9 out of 10. It's on Amazon. If you have Prime, you don't have to pay anything else to watch it. It just dropped this weekend. Really good. Directed by Guy Ritchie, who, again, we just did Snatch on our podcast a few weeks ago. Really good kind of like action movie director. So yeah, if you have a chance, Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare just dropped. Really, really good. And then we had a chance to go to the theater to see the new Marvel movie called Deadpool and Wolverine.
Oh, what was it like?
9.5 out of 10.
Oh, that good.
So good.
Oh, wow.
Like A+, no notes. It was every bit of fan service you ever wanted. Tons of Easter eggs. Super good story. It's everything you want. Like, again, we reviewed Deadpool, the first Deadpool, on this podcast a few months back.
We did. Yep.
Once you know Deadpool's shtick, if you enjoyed it, this is more of the same. It's everything you would expect from a Deadpool movie. They bring the Wolverine character in, and it is super good. I really enjoyed it. As a Marvel fanboy, I loved it. It's I would say outside of the Spider-Man movies, it's the best Marvel movie they've had since the Avengers Endgame. Like, it is just, they nailed it. It is so good on so many levels, and it does such good fan service. Yeah, super, super good. I'm very, like, I had no problem paying money to see it, and just loved it. I'm actually going to go back to see it again next week with a couple of my buddies who haven't had a chance to go yet. Their wives don't want to see it, and they're like, will you go with us? I was like, of course I'll go with you. It was awesome. I'll definitely see it again. So I had a lot of really good stuff. We got the Totally Tubular Festival, the Sammy Hagar concert, the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, and Deadpool and Wolverine. A+ across the board for my pop culture for the last few weeks. How about you, Chris?
And the guitar player for Sammy Hagar was Joe Satriani.
Thank you. I was totally blanking on his name. Yes.
Yeah, so I remember him from the 80s. He's a good guitar player. Okay, for me, so I've mentioned before, Derek, I'm a big fan of some of these streaming services that are available. Like, not, there's the big ones like Netflix and Disney Plus and Prime and all that. But some of my favorites are the lesser known streaming apps. Go figure. One I really like is Tubi.
Oh my God, we just watched some Tubi last night.
Oh, good. I was wondering if you ever watched it.
I'll tell you more. I forgot to add that on my list. Yeah, go ahead.
What did you watch on Tubi?
So my wife is subscribed to the Tubi social media, and she goes, I just got a message. Denzel Washington in The Equalizer 2 is leaving Tubi this weekend. And I'm like, so what? I've seen it. She's like, we should watch it again. I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? I haven't seen it in a while. We sat down. Best 2 hours we spent in the last week outside of these concerts. I'm like, this movie's really, really good. So yeah, no.
So the reason I love Tubi is because it's got a bunch of 80s stuff that you just can't get anywhere else. Nice. So now, Derek, I know you've mentioned several times here on the podcast, some of the movies from the 80s haven't aged all that well. You often mention Revenge of the Nerds, how it just doesn't hold up, right?
Yep.
And it hasn't aged well, let's be honest. But I got to tell you, I was watching Tubi the other night, and I found the granddaddy of 80s movies that hasn't aged well. Derek, are you familiar with the 1981 film Private Lessons?
I am not. Tell me about it.
So, of all the 80s teen sex comedies that are out there, this one might be one of the single most inappropriate movies ever made in history. So, and that's saying something.
Especially, I'm looking it up right now. I can't wait to finish the podcast so I can go watch it.
Oh man, let me tell you, this movie is something else. So, for anyone that doesn't know about this movie, or maybe it's just been a long time, maybe you've forgotten about it. It's about a 15-year-old boy whose parents leave him alone for the summer with the new live-in maid, played by Sylvia Kristel. So she's the actress that played the lead role in those erotic Emmanuelle films back in the 70s. So this 15-year-old boy gets left home alone with Emmanuelle for the summer. I'm pretty sure you can figure out how it goes. So, hint, it's rather problematic, Derek. So, and I think
for the 15-year-old boy. It sounds it.
And that's the thing, because I'm thinking like the movie's focusing on his viewpoint, right? And if I was 15 years old and I was left home all summer with Emmanuelle, well, okay, but I mean that's one side of the coin, right? The other side of the coin, if you think about it, pretty problematic. So you've got a 30-year-old having sex with a 15-year-old, and the movie just plays the whole thing like it's normal. They just normalize all this. Hell, in one of the sex scenes, and they're graphic too, in one of the sex scenes, there's a Rod Stewart song playing, for crying out loud. He's having sex with a 30-year-old. So anyway, I just was like, oh my gosh, I just had to mention it, because you always say, Revenge of the Nerds, man, doesn't hold up. Oh yeah? You know what? Private Lessons, man, 1981. Go back and watch it. And I mean, it is something else. So.
Is there any more to the movie other than maid makes out with young boy?
There's this whole subplot where I guess it turns out Howard Hessman has a role in it too. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to fake her death to try and extort money from him. Like while they're having sex, she pretends to have a heart attack and die. But the problem is she's falling in love with him. So then they just keep having sex together.
Sorry, with the 15-year-old boy.
Yeah.
Okay. So. Yeah. People go to jail for that today.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess the 80s were a different time.
Apparently were. So for something a little bit more family friendly, let's do this.
Here's your dad joke of the week.
So Derek, what do the films Titanic and The Sixth Sense have in common?
Oh boy. I don't know. You don't see the end coming?
I see dead people.
Yeah, I love how dead people is more family friendly than teenage sex.
I've got a can, so I'm opening this up right now.
And I'm a girl drink drunk, so I'm having a Pop Shop cream soda.
Oh, that's a good one.
That has Chris's stamp all over it. Yeah, okay. Oh.
You mean The Phantom Menace?
Oh.
I'm not a fan of the prequels.
Okay, fair enough.
I used to be a somewhat successful podcaster in the world of fantasy baseball.
Go Ducks!
Oh man.
Okay, so I mentioned off the top, we ran our top 5 summer movies last time out, and we decided to go back and watch one of the movies on my list, and that's Summer Rental from 1985 with John Candy. And I think you have to remind me, Derek, I feel like when I mentioned this movie in that podcast that you weren't all that familiar with it, or you didn't remember it that well.
I had definitely seen it before, but I think this was one of those ones that I maybe watched when I was working at Blockbuster in the 90s, simply because it's like, oh, this has John Candy. As a Canadian, I feel I need to rent and watch this movie. But I honestly didn't remember I remembered a handful of the small details, but on the whole, I had no real memory of it.
So there's a lot of nostalgia for me on this one, but we'll start with you. I made you go and watch this movie, or go back and watch it. So what were your general thoughts watching it this week again? Just as a general overview.
Well, I was very surprised to see that it was directed by Carl Reiner.
Yes.
Which I had no memory and no knowledge of that. So I thought, oh, well, maybe this is going to be better than I think it's going to be. And let me tell you, this is a waste of 90 minutes of your life. This movie was terrible.
No, man.
As much as I want to like John Candy, and I do like him in some things, this was not the right vehicle for him. I thought this movie was a waste of time. I didn't find it funny at all. I kept asking myself, who is the target audience for this movie? Like, is it supposed to be a comedy for teenagers? Is it supposed to be a movie for dads who hate their family and can't wait to get away from them? Is this for moms who desperately want to find a guy with a boat that they can hang out with? Like, this movie just was all over the place, and really I couldn't get behind it on any level. There was like maybe 2 or 3 things that I thought, oh, that's mildly amusing, but I was very disappointed with this. I won't say it's as bad as Ishtar, but I kind of had those, why did you make me watch this feelings, and thought, I think Chris owes me $1 because I have wasted 90 minutes of my life on this movie.
Well, it's okay. You could be wrong.
But hold on, I won't hold back. Let me.
No, of course. And like John Candy did make some dud movies, and we'll get to those in a bit. I want to circle back to that. But I didn't think this was one of them. There was some issues with it, and we'll get into that, I'm sure. But overall, I was very nostalgic for the film. I remember watching it when it came out. I liked it. I watched it on VHS back in the 80s. And watching it again now, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed myself very much. So let's go back to 1985. Number 1 movie at the box office that year, Derek. What do you think?
Ooh, 85 was Ghostbusters. 84. I guess say Back to the Future.
Back to the Future was the number 1 film that year. Absolutely.
Yeah. You want to do a Back to the Future podcast instead? I'd rather do that.
Well, we've already
do
did
that with my eyes closed. I don't even have to rewatch the movie. We'll just transition right into Back to the Future.
I think we did that back in like season 2 or something like that with Yancey. Okay. So Back to the Future was number 1. Beverly Hills Cop was number 2. Beverly Hills Cop came out in 84, but it was in December, so it made most of its money in 85.
Yeah.
Rambo First Blood Part 2 was number 3, followed up by Rocky 4 and Cocoon, rounding out the top 5. Summer Rental made just over $24 million at the box office. That was 33rd place. It finished just ahead of Weird Science and right behind Fright Night. But
I've seen all those movies.
Yeah, but this movie actually did better than Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo, which was on 108th place. Yeah, it's funny. If you go right down to the bottom of the list, all the way down in the 191st spot, dead last, is a movie called Colonel Reddle. It made a grand total, Derek, of $2,357. Jeez.
None of that came out of my pocket. I never even heard of that movie.
I think my 8mm short film of stop motion chair racing that I made in high school made more money than that one did. It was pretty bad. But anyway, so back to Summer Rental here. So we usually talk about the cast. We got to obviously start with John Candy. Lots of talk about him. So the first thing that he ever did on film or in television was a show back in 1972, TV show, Canadian kids show called Cucumber. Have you ever heard of it? Do you remember that one?
No, never have.
Oh, there was the big costume character Beaver.
No.
Cucumber was like an acronym. It stood for Children's Underground Club of Verified Moose and Beaver for Enthusiastic Reporters. It's a crazy dumb thing.
Somebody tried way too hard to make that work.
Exactly. But anyway, so John Candy appeared on there. That was his first thing that he ever did. And then in 1976, he was in Tunnel Vision. I don't know if you remember that. I mentioned that on the podcast previously.
Never heard of it.
It was like a spoof of late night TV, and he had a segment on there called Get Head. You remember in Living Color in the 90s, and they had a thing on there called the Head Detective?
The Head Detective.
Yeah, that was like Tunnel Vision did it first, and it was like John Candy, and then he had this box with a head in it. It was David Lander, the guy that played Squiggy on Laverne and Shirley.
Okay.
And then in 1977, he did King of Kensington, Canadian TV.
I know. Yeah.
Did a Canadian film in 78 called The Silent Partner with Elliot Gould and Christopher Plummer. By the way, great film if you ever get a chance to see it.
I'll take your word for it.
And then, of course, he did SCTV from 76 to 81. And the thing is, Summer Rental is considered by most people to be John Candy's first starring role. You know, the first time he got to carry a film by himself. But that's not true. Actually, he starred in 1983's Going Berserk, which was a Canadian movie. I don't know if you ever heard of that one.
I think I've seen that one. Yeah, that sounds familiar. It
had Joe Flaherty and Eugene Levy in it too, and I think they kind of marketed it. Yeah, they marketed it as the three guys, but it was John Candy's film all the way. And then he was obviously in Blues Brothers and Stripes, and then especially Splash was the movie where he kind of broke out and he ended up being one of the most beloved comedy actors of all time. But I've mentioned this before. He always had an edge to him that I always liked that, and we see it here in this movie. I love that scene when he finds the guy in his bed and the guy's like, I'm watching the Smurfs. And he's like, oh yeah? You ever see the one where the Papa Smurf beats the out of the guy in a red hat? That was So that was pretty funny. But when he died in 1994, he was in we look back on John Candy very fondly, and we should. Yes. But when he died, he was in a pretty major lull in his career. If you go back to 1991, he was in JFK, and at the time, I thought that was a really promising role for him because after Home Alone in 1990, he did a bunch of duds in 91. He did Nothing But Trouble with Dan Aykroyd, Only the Lonely with Ali Sheedy, and Delirious. And then he had that serious role in JFK, and I was like, oh, maybe this is going to be like the thing that gets him into more serious roles, or at least roles with a bit more substance. And then he did Cool Runnings. I mean,
he was decent in Cool Runnings.
It had a bit of success.
That one lives on, right? That's on Disney. You could probably watch that right now.
It wasn't very good, though. And then
it was middle of the road.
And then he did Wagons East and Canadian Bacon, two other dumb movies before he died.
Wagons East was terrible. Canadian Bacon had its moments, but again, I think it was more once he died, they're like, how can we make money off what he's already done? They came.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you really think of his film career had a lot of ups and downs. It had a lot of downs too.
But I mean, so I agree. It had a lot of downs, but he was in Spaceballs. He was in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. He was in some bigger. Not that he was the star, the number one star above the headline. He was in Brewster's Millions, which we just watched. So
we just watched.
He had some
same year as
where
this.
You're like, hey, if you talk to somebody about Spaceballs, he's in that dialogue when you're talking about what do you like most about this movie. So I mean, he definitely had star power. He had an important presence on screen. But I think you're right. I don't think he ever. Well, not I don't think. He never had an opportunity, or he never managed to be the headliner. This is a John Candy movie. Let's all go see it. I don't think he ever got that. And I think you're right. Following JFK, it sort of, as often happens with comedic actors, you give them an opportunity to do something dramatic, and you realize a lot of them are actually pretty good actors.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you know better than I do. A lot of the importance and the best parts about comedy is timing and to be a dramatic actor, like you have to know and understand a lot of that. So it's almost like being a successful funny actor sets you up to be a better dramatic actor. And had he lived another 20 years, I'm sure he would have had more opportunities to get more of those serious roles. Think like Robin Williams, like one of the funniest people ever to live, and he won an Oscar for being in a serious movie. Like, not that I'm comparing John Candy to Robin Williams. I don't think they were on the same stage or the same level, but the idea is there. And I think John Candy, unfortunately, never really had those opportunities.
No, I agree, and you're definitely right, because comedy. The key with comedy is it usually comes from a place of pain. Like, I mean, usually comedy is never funny to the person it's happening to.
Yes.
Right? So
just look at John Ritter. That was his whole career.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, I mean, like, you know, even if you see someone getting, you know, hit with a football in the gonads, you know, everyone laughs at it.
Just talking about
it's not funny to the guy that it happened to, right? So, you know, comedy comes from a different place. And I remember there was a film, go back to 1982. It was called My Favorite Year. And there's a great line in that film that Peter O'Toole delivers where he says, "Dying is easy. Comedy is hard."
That was a great movie.
And I think that kind of exemplifies it. You're right. Like, I mean, people that are good comedic actors usually make great serious actors, and he just never got his chance. But overall, I mean, we should look back fondly on his career, because he was great, and he was such a likable guy and such a unique kind of person, and he was Canadian, so there's always that.
Yeah.
Also want to mention Karen Austin played his wife in this. She's probably best known from Night Court. Remember, she was Lana Wagner. So
was that where she was from? I couldn't place her. I'm like, why do I recognize her? And I couldn't place her. Okay.
So when they made Night Court, the producers of the show wanted Markie Post right from the get-go. But she wasn't available because she was still working on The Fall Guy, right?
Right.
So they brought in Karen Austin. And then once Markie Post became available, when The Fall Guy got canceled, Karen Austin was out. But she really, in this movie, fits that TV, and it's movies too, but it's that trope of the overweight husband with the hot wife.
Yeah, hot husband to the skinny wife.
Yeah, because my kids watch a lot of these like sitcoms for kids. They watch stuff like, there's like Good Luck Charlie and the Thundermans and all this crap that I could be subjected to. But every single one of these shows uses this formula too. Overweight dad, hot mom, always the way. But I thought she was good in this. I thought she was great. The daughter, Carrie Green, want to mention her. She really was only known for 3 roles. It was like this, and she was in Lucas with Corey Haim, Charlie Sheen, and of course The Goonies with Andy.
And I've seen all of them. I immediately recognized her from The Goonies, like in a second.
Oh, yeah.
And then when I looked her up, I'm like, oh yeah, she was in Lucas as well.
Well, then she, after that, she took a break from acting. She went and studied art at Vassar, and then she just never really returned to the spotlight after that. But she was in, 3 well-known films from the 80s, I guess. Richard Crenna, I thought he was good at this. Like, I thought
he always plays a good jerk.
He does.
He was definitely, he played that role perfectly in this.
People probably remember him best from Rambo. Because he was Troutman, right, in First Blood and Rambo. But he was in Body Heat too. I thought he was perfect in this movie. I liked him as the bad guy. I thought he was good.
He was really good in this one as the bad guy. I mean, he did what he was supposed to do, and yeah, no. But to your point, I knew him from Rambo, but I recognized him in this right away. But I'm like, he always either plays like a jerk, or I remember him from a movie called The Flamingo Kid too, where he basically played the exact same role.
As same as this role, that was. The son Joey Lawrence was in Gimme a Break with Nell Carter, and then he just became like a pop culture sensation. He was in Blossom. Rip Torn, I want to mention too, because he doesn't have a whole lot to do here in the movie, but man, does he make the most of it. He was always a scene stealer. I feel like Rip Torn was living proof that there's no small roles, only small actors. I really liked him in this movie a lot.
Yeah, no, I agree. And he's one of those guys that, like, when he shows up, you're like, is he going to be serious? Is he going to be goofy? Is he going to say the inappropriate, outrageous thing? Like, you never know what to make of him. And in this one, it's like, yep, he's exactly what I expected him to be. And they give him the hook, which just adds to the comedy. No, he was great.
I liked him. I want to mention Lois Hamilton. So she was the neighbor with the boob job. She was a very interesting person in real life. So I don't know if you're familiar with her. Do you know much about her? So she was one of the top models in the 70s.
Okay.
And even though she always played a ditz, she was really like super intelligent. So she had degrees in both psychology and fine arts. She studied in Italy. She was a licensed pilot. And then at the age of 56, she took an overdose of sleeping pills and put a plastic bag over her head and died in a hotel room.
Jeez.
Like, what?
Wow.
I was
That got dark.
I know.
That unexpectedly took a bad turn there.
I know. Like, it was just like, wow, she was just an interesting person. She did she always had small roles. Like, she was in Three's Company and The Ropers. She was in The Love Boat. But where I remember her best from, other than this, was in Stripes, because it's one of my favorite movies. She was Stillman's girlfriend. I don't know if you remember the scene where she's in the fur coat and he brings her to try and impress her by showing her the EM50, and it's gone. Because remember, Bill Murray and Harold Ramis stole it. He's like, they took it out to get it washed, sir. He's like, where the my truck? So, but she was in that scene. I remember her from that the most. But then I want to mention you touch base on Carl Reiner. Interesting that he directed this, because this is not up there with his best movies like The Jerk or Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid or even The Man with Two Brains. I feel like he did his best work with Steve Martin.
That's fair. Yeah.
But man, he was around forever in show business. He started back in like black and white TV, right? He was originally going to play Rob Petrie, and then they changed it to the Dick Van Dyke Show, and he paired up with Mel Brooks. Early on, they had a comedy act together.
Yeah.
But and then of course he's in Ocean's 11.
He is. I think that's where most younger viewers are going to recognize him from, is from that. Well, I mean, obviously, the other thing that, again, is Rob Reiner's his son, which I think a lot of younger people are going to know Rob Reiner more than they know Carl Reiner. But
he probably was even more famous than his dad.
Oh,
I think.
No question. Yeah.
But I mean, Carl Reiner was like a Hollywood, legend, right? But the thing is, I'll be honest, he didn't have the strongest script here to work with.
I agree.
So he did the right thing, though, and he just let John Candy just go loose and just let him mold the movie into something that was entertaining. So I felt it was very smart directing on his part.
I disagree. I mean, from the point of view of, I kind of was expecting that that's where this was going to go. I thought he's just going to let John Candy cook, and I just felt that so many scenes felt very restrained and scripted, and if John Candy was potentially given opportunity to just do some more stuff, it might have improved some of the scenes. So it surprised me to hear you say that that's what happened, because I certainly didn't feel that's what was happening when I watched it.
Oh, I did. Even watching it again now, it's just like John Candy. You can tell it almost every scene to scene. He's just improvising and just kind of throwing stuff in there and stuff, and that's my takeaway from it for sure. But like I say, there was problems with the script. Like, one thing that stood out to me, what the hell was going on with that whole John Larroquette side story thing?
I had the same question. I was like, you always like, can you explain what's going on here? I was like, so John Candy's wife and kids meet John Larroquette and his son at the movie theater, and then throughout the rest of the movie, the wife keeps taking off with the kids to spend time with this newly single man and his teenage son. And I'm like, what's going on here? Like, are we supposed to read between the lines that maybe there's some attraction or he's hitting on her? Like, it just seemed weird that this relationship happened and it wasn't commented on again.
Yeah, it just kind of stops. It's like then you see him again at the end at the regatta, cheering them on. I'm like, what's going on? I would have liked to have seen a confrontation between John Candy and him, just like when he got that guy in bed watching the Smurfs. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like it needed something like that. It just obviously never happened.
Well, or the other way. I think if it was supposed to be as innocent as I guess we're supposed to anticipate or supposed to understand, have a situation where John Candy's wife helps John Larroquette meet another woman. Where it's like, oh, we're going to have this platonic relationship and we're just going to be friendly for the next few weeks. That's great. Oh, there's a hot chick on the beach. Let me help you introduce you to this woman. Let me help you get a date with this woman. Like, I almost needed a scene like that just so that it was clear to me, where is this relationship going or not going, because I didn't get the sense that John Candy and his wife were not in a solid relationship. I didn't get the sense that they're like, oh, there's this couple on the verge of divorce.
No.
Like there was none of that. Like they didn't seem like that.
She even alluded to a couple times how she felt that he was so attractive.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, my mom always said you were crazy, and things like that.
Well, there's the one time where he's like, I don't need your pity. And she's like, going once, going twice. Okay, I'll take it. I'm like, I can relate to that. I'm almost 50. I know where that's going.
Yeah.
Take it where you get it, man.
But it almost felt like there were maybe scenes cut from the film during editing.
I agree.
Maybe to give it like a PG rating.
Or to bring it down to 90 minutes so they can show more scenes in the theater, more viewings in the theater.
Yeah, just maybe some scenes were deleted, or because another thing that stood out was that whole scene when he was locked out of the cottage in the rain. It felt a bit disjointed, and I wondered, like, it was something missing there, or something was edited out. Like maybe there was something that would have jeopardized the PG rating or something. But I don't know. The script was a little off here.
Possible, but no. I honestly, I think if scenes were cut, and I definitely felt like scenes were cut, it was to keep the runtime under 90 minutes, and not because it was things that were performed or said or done that would have changed the rate. I mean, I could be totally wrong, but again, you and I have been doing these podcasts for a long time, and we've seen a ton of movies, so you start to get a sense for this. My feeling was 15 minutes were cut out of this movie for runtime, and I think it's some of these scenes, like you're saying, it's John Candy in the rain. It's the relationship between the wife and John Larroquette. Like, those are the scenes I think were cut because, honestly, you didn't necessarily need them. But at the same time, I felt there was 20 minutes in this movie I didn't need that I could have cut out easily, and some of the other stuff too. But that's just my feeling.
I think it's worthwhile taking a look for you and I to look at this movie versus National Lampoon's Vacation. Because
how so?
Well, because I think it's inevitable to make a comparison between these two films, right? They're both about families going on vacation. They both starred popular comedic actors, so you obviously think National Lampoon's Vacation was the better of the two, clearly.
So I do, but honestly, National Lampoon's Vacation is not a movie that I have any personal close affection for. Like, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably give it a 7, which I know a lot of people would say like, oh, that's blasphemy. It's just, it never really spoke to me. But I would probably give this one a much lower score. I feel that Vacation was a better movie all around, just because I felt it had more ups and downs, and the ups were much higher. This one I felt was sort of a one note the whole time. I didn't really feel there was a lot of really up scenes. I felt there was a lot of like, yeah, let's get to the next whatever. And it's like 15 minutes go by and you're like, oh, there's not a next whatever. This is it. Uh-oh. So my thoughts.
The only thing is, though, I think comparing the two, John Candy is super likable. And I think Clark Griswold in Vacation was an interesting character, but I also think he's kind of an
I agree 100%.
You actually root for John Candy, but you don't root for Chevy Chase. Absolutely. You like to see Chevy Chase in bad situations.
And honestly, I'm not a big fan of Chevy Chase. I never have been, and I think that's probably why I don't like Vacation as much as a lot of other people, because I agree with you. I think his character is a super jerk. I think he does terrible things. I think he's mean when he doesn't have to be. I think he's deliberately, awkward when he doesn't have to be. Whereas you're right. I mean, John Candy, on the whole, his persona, his characters are generally like the lovable fat guy, and that's fine. But I just felt that this story was kind of flat to me. I didn't feel like there was really those ups and downs, or those, a lot of times in the comedy, you have a couple of scenes where you're just like, oh my God, this is laugh out loud, roll on the floor, hilarious. And even if this 20-minute stretch is kind of, I know by the time I get to that, that's the pinnacle. I can't wait to get there. And I never felt there was any of that in this movie. I thought even the parts that were supposed to be funny were just mildly amusing. Even the one-liners, you're like, that's kind of funny.
Well, okay, let's talk about the scenes and some quotes. But before we do that, just to circle back to Vacation for a second.
Sure.
It's funny that you mentioned, like John or Chevy Chase is not very likable and stuff in it. And it's funny because John Candy's in that movie too. And he's one of the best parts of the movie. When he comes on screen, it's like he's got way more charisma than Chevy Chase does. So anyway, that was interesting. So, but in this film, so you're mentioning that the scenes aren't there, nothing was funny. I think there was a couple of scenes though that did stand out to me. So the one sort of ongoing scene where the public comes into his cottage when he's away, I liked that whole bit. I thought it was pretty good. It just starts out by the mom and the daughter, she needs to use the washroom, and then a guy's got to have a drink of water, and then it just starts filling up. And then the next thing you know, it's like, who's got the omelet? And then they're making all this stuff. And then, of course, the scene with the guy in bed watching the Smurfs and everything. I thought that whole scene was pretty good. I don't know. I don't know.
The whole setup is that he leaves the house with the door open, which to me, I just thought there's no way that would happen. I get that the hot woman comes over and he's distracted, but as soon as he left, I thought, why would he leave the door open? And
he was on crutches, and
it
like
led
you
to
said,
everything else, and I was just like, this would never happen. I don't know. I didn't find it funny more than annoying, and I thought when he came back, I was like, this isn't funny as much as this is an awful situation for him because now he has to deal with this crap. Maybe that's just me getting older. I'm like, I can relate with the dad more than I can relate with the people.
So, like you mentioned, the scene kind of leading up to that was when he meets the female neighbor. And then she takes him next door and shows him her newly enhanced breasts. I thought that scene was pretty funny. Was this or a
chainsaw? Oh, I think you made the right decision.
I think you made the right choice. She's like, it cost $200, right? Or $2,000.
$2,000, yeah.
And then like she's like, I just got him. He's like, oh, who had them before you? Like the whole thing is just him just riffing and making all these kind of comments, which I thought. I love when the husband comes in and he immediately gets mad at her. Yes. He's like, oh, she's been showing them to everyone. He's like, oh, man, I'm sorry. Last night she shoved him in the clerk's face at the 7-Eleven. He's like, mister, do me a favor. Try them and tell her that they feel right. As a favor to me. And then he feels them. He's like, oh, those are so lifelike. It's ridiculous. You know? He's like, thanks, buddy. I owe you one. He'll what are neighbors for? I thought that whole scene was pretty funny, actually.
I don't know. I didn't really laugh. I kind of felt just more awkward watching it. I don't know. Maybe that's my more modern day sensibility or me getting older. I mean, I like dick and fart joke as much as the next guy, but I don't know. I just didn't really find that scene laugh out loud funny.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. What about the scene when Angus comes and he's kind of evaluating the barnacle, the Scottish guy? Remember, he's looking over the boat and you can't understand a single word he says because he's got that super thick Scottish accent.
But this to me goes back to that whole thing from the 80s where it's like the Revenge of the Nerd things where it's like, we're laughing at this guy because he's Asian. We're laughing at this guy because he's gay. We're laughing at this guy because whatever. It's like, this to me was more of that. It's like, we're going to laugh at this guy because we don't understand what he's saying. I'm like, I mean, yes, I can see the comedic value of he's saying things you don't understand, but I didn't find it funny. I just find it sort of more annoying than anything else. It's like, what the hell is he supposed to be saying? Like, I didn't feel that I should be laughing at him.
Yeah, I get you right, because then there's the Mexican guy behind him says something, and Angus is like, what do you say? And Scully says, we'll make our own luck, you dumb Swede. Like, it's like, okay, like super offensive. I don't know if you noticed the guy that played Angus. Did you recognize him by any chance? Because he had a lot of makeup on. He had the long hair and the mustache.
He had the beard and the mustache. No, I didn't recognize him.
So he was Wilhelm on Seinfeld.
Who is that?
Oh, you're not a big Seinfeld guy.
Not a big Seinfeld guy.
So he was George's boss when George went to work at the New York Yankees. He was Wilhelm. Richard Hurt.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I know that guy.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the new traveling manager for the New York Yankees.
Yeah, he was the traveling secretary, the assistant to the traveling secretary.
Sure, traveling secretary. That's it, yeah.
Probably the most famous scene in the movie was when he's walking on the beach with the cooler. You know, because that's the one they used on the movie poster and stuff. And the cooler taps open and the cold water's dripping all over everybody on the beach. And I love the water goes on the one guy's radio. And John Candy's like, oh, I'm sorry. This thing's just broken. I'm waiting for a piece from Minneapolis. Send the bill to 415 Beach Lane. And that's the wrong address. That's the address of the first place they went to. So I don't know. I thought that was pretty funny too. And one of my favorite characters in this whole movie was the pirate musician. Remember the old Japanese guy there?
Yes.
The actor was Harry Yorku. He only did 3 movies. He did this, Volunteers, and Vice Versa. I love he's playing like that little mini keyboard. And then I really enjoyed his interactions with the little girl.
Yes.
They're like combing the doll's hair together, and they're both so happy at the end when he wins the race. That genuinely put a huge smile on my face when I was watching it. So, any quotes from the film? You didn't think there were any quotes that stood out?
I liked when so at the start where they go to the wrong house, and then when he comes back and he's like, I forgot my Noxzema. And then he comes back, and my daughter. And then
my daughter.
Daddy, I peed my bed. No, you peed their bed.
Yeah. That was pretty
So
funny.
I was like, and I think I knew that one because when it was happening, I'm like, I think I know where this is going. But I mean, that's still a pretty funny line.
I think I mentioned it in our last podcast. I might have mentioned that line.
Maybe that's why it sort of sounded familiar.
Because I do like that line. I also like when Cary Green comes running out in the skimpy bikini, and he's like, "Where do you think you're going? This isn't a nude beach. Who do you think you are, Lolita?" He's just like improvising lines and stuff. I thought, and then that lifeguard comes up to her too, and then he says to his wife, he's like, "Should she be talking to him?" She's like, "I don't know. Why not?" He's like, "Are you crazy? He's a lifeguard. They're all sex maniacs." Right now, each of his gonads is screaming, "I'm first." Again, it was just him just riffing on lines. I thought was pretty funny. So
there was the scene where I think it was right after that, where he goes by and there's the clothes hanger and it's all the jocks from all the gotchi shorts from all the lifeguards.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't remember what he said, but I'm like, that was a funny visual. I was like, again, it was kind of the cheap laugh, but you kind of expected it. And I'm like, yep, there it is.
I like when he's arguing with Scully too about who's better, Jimmy Cagney or Sylvester Stallone. And John Candy's like, okay, fine. Jimmy Cagney might beat Sylvester Stallone in a street fight, but not in a movie. Again, I just thought that was kind of funny.
Right.
And then, of course, probably one of the most famous lines when he's on the beach and he's like, "Your wife's on my whammo." That one always.
Oh, the frisbee.
Yeah. So I always remember that. The other thing too about this film, it feels kind of like it's like two movies in one. You know what I mean? Like the first half is basically that generic 80s slapstick comedy. You know, they go to the wrong cottage and the frisbee and the crotch water cooler, all that. But the second half is like about this father trying to live up to this image that his kids have of him, or where he's the underdog versus the local villain. It felt like there was like two movies in one.
And I think that was part of what I didn't like about it was I think if it had been more of the first part for the whole movie, I would have enjoyed it more because I think there would have been more laughs. And I think the second part, where it becomes more about the boat race and the regatta and the fixing up the boat, like the montage to fix the boat, like there was like 4 montages in this movie. And I'm like, the movie's only 90 minutes. You don't need 4 montages. And it seemed unnecessary. It seemed like it was sort of an overused trope. And maybe it wasn't as overused in the 80s when this came out. But it's like, okay. And that's why I kept thinking, like, who is the target audience for this movie? Like, is this supposed to be for teenagers? Because this didn't feel like it was a teenager movie. No. Is it supposed to be fun for the whole family? Because I thought nobody in the whole family is going to like the whole movie. There's parts for the dad, there's parts for the mom, there's parts for the kids. But I'm like, my parents brought me this movie. I would have, as a younger kid, I'm like, I don't think I would have liked it. I don't think they would have liked it. I'm like, the movie almost felt like it didn't know what it was trying to be because it was trying to be too much for everyone. It's like, just pick a lane and stick to it. And it felt like it kept changing lanes throughout the movie. And I'm like, now you're this, now you're this, now you're this. I was like, you know what? I'm out. I was
maybe the material.
An hour in, I was like, when is this movie done? Oh, I got 30 more minutes. Oh my God. Oh, look, 3 more montages. Well, that got through the last 30 minutes. They were done.
But maybe it's the material too, because you could make the same argument about National Lampoon's Vacation. Like, who's the target audience of that film too?
Yeah,
really,
I suppose.
Like, I don't know.
I will tell you though, again, having no real memory of the film, when I'm watching the end and they're at the race and then they're like, Dad, we're not going to win, are we? And they're like, no. And the boat was a long way back. And I thought, oh, this is interesting. This movie is about, spending the time with your family and discovering who you are. It's a personal journey and you don't have to win the race to have a good time. Like, I thought, wow, this movie's really going to say something here. And then no, they ended up finding the win and getting the race done. I was like, oh, you had it. You had the ending right there. Nope, you had to go for the happy ending, and that kind of sucked. And then it just like literally, they win the race, fade to black, roll the credits. I was like, wow. I really would have been happier if this movie had been 10 minutes shorter and that had been sort of the end of the movie. But again, we don't always get what we want. I know for this, I'm never going to watch it again. I kind of feel like I wasted 90 minutes this time around, but you asked me to watch it, so I did. It was nice to see John Candy again. I have no idea why John Larroquette was in this movie. He was totally wasted. I mean, not like drunk wasted, but his talent was wasted in this.
It was
movie.
before he'd done really anything. He'd only done Stripes at this point, and this is before Night Court. So
before Night Court,
Yeah.
but I was like, he's in it. You don't even use him. You don't really give him a lot to do.
again, maybe stuff got
paycheck.
deleted. I don't know.
I do. I think so. I gotta guess he probably had 5 or 10 more minutes of screen time that got cut out. No, this is definitely not one that I would recommend. It didn't speak to me. I can appreciate that it had nostalgic value for you.
Yeah,
but
it did.
No, not
I do admit that, as I've mentioned, I think there was some issues with the script overall, but I mean, John Candy, I think, pulls it off. I really think he does, and I think it's an underrated comedy from the 80s. It's one of the ones I really like from the 80s. So I've always liked this. Do you want to give it a rating out of 10?
5.5.
Okay,
just above the pass mark.
I mean, I'm not going to go huge on it, but I'd go 7.5 out of 10. That's what I would.
Seems
give
very
it.
generous to me.
I don't know.
That 5.5 is resting entirely on John Candy's shoulders.
Sure, as it should. So, all right. So on that note, what do you say we have some
Fun with Caveman.
All right, this is the part of the show that we do some trivia or we play a game or something like that. So what do you got for us?
All right, we're going to take another trip back to the winner's circle of the $100,000 pyramid.
Yes. Okay.
We're going to do things a slight little bit different than normal.
All right.
So normally, when you're trying to get to the top of the pyramid, so for those who aren't aware, we're going to give you there's going to be a target that you're trying to get, and I'm going to give you a list of things that are in that category, and you're going to have to try and guess the category. Normally, you're going to try and guess them as fast as you can. There's a total of 6 answers, and you're going to try and get to the top of the pyramid as fast as you can. We're going to do things a little differently this time.
Okay.
Rather than try to get up as fast as you can, I just want to make sure you get there. Much like your wife.
Oh, my, my, my.
Sorry, dude. And so I'm going to give you 3 clues for each category. I want you to let me get through all 3 clues, and then I'm fairly confident by that point you should know it. And the caveat here, the commonality that's related to what we're doing is this movie stars John Candy. Candy is something you can eat. So all of the famous people, performers, entertainers that are in the answers to these 6 questions all have names that are related to food or things you can eat.
Okay.
And with that, we're gonna get started. Are you ready? I'm gonna give you the categories. That's your thing. All foods or things you can eat. Let me get through each of I'm gonna give you 3 clues for each one. When you know it, bam, jump in. Okay.
And I'm trying to guess the actor or actress that has food or something.
You just want I just need their real name, but let me get through. I'm going to give you 3 quick clues. Let me get through my 3 clues and then jump in with the answer.
All right.
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Okay, go. I recently appeared in Beverly Hills Cop 4, Axel F. I showed my enormous penis on screen in Wild Things in 1998. And I proved that white guys can dance in 1984's Footloose.
Kevin Bacon.
Yes! All right. In 2001, I showed my breasts on screen for the first time in the movie Swordfish. And then in 2002, the next year, I won an Oscar for Best Actress. And then the next year, in 2003, I played the worst Catwoman to ever appear on screen.
Halle Berry.
Halle Berry, you got
Yes.
it. All right. I played 17 seasons in Major League Baseball. I got 335 home runs and 1,000 RBIs. I won 3 World Series championships, and I appeared in The Simpsons in the episode Homer at the Bat, where I cried like a bitch in the outfield.
Daryl Strawberry.
You got it. All right. I appeared in Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. I was in season 1 of Game of Thrones, but was killed in the season finale. And I have 2 famous internet memes that have resulted from these roles, including One Does Not Simply Walk into Mordor and Imminent Ned, also known as Winter is Coming.
Sean Bean.
Yes! All right. I was nominated for lead actor in a drama series 8 years in a row, but I didn't win until the 8th and final season of my show. I hosted Saturday Night Live 3 times with awesome musical guests, including Coldplay, Michael Bublé, and Rihanna. And I was nominated for an Emmy this year in 2024 for playing the villain Roy Tillman in season 5 of Fargo.
I don't know.
Oh, right, we're gonna pass. We'll come back to that.
Pass.
Right. My song, I Do the Rock, reached number 53 on the U.S. Billboard 200 chart in 1979. I played a scientist, Dr. Frank Furter, in the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And I also played Wadsworth the Butler in Clue.
Oh, Tim Curry.
Tim Curry!
Yes.
All right. Going back. I was nominated for the lead actor in a drama series in my show, Mad Men, 8 years in a row.
Oh, John Hamm.
You got the berry, you got the strawberry, you got the bean, you got the ham, you got the curry. All things you can eat.
Mix them all together and you got yourself a real treat. Oh, that's great.
Nicely done.
Ooh. John Hamm took me a little bit to get, so.
That one was sort of my only sort of trick.
Then when you mentioned Saturday Night Live, I kept sticking to me, and then I remembered he did that one parody. It was like a commercial parody, John Hamm's John Hamm, where it was the ham instead of the toilet paper in the John, because sometimes you're in the John and you just want some ham. I still remember that. So.
Remember, if it feels like lunch meat, don't wipe your with it.
So there you go. Okay, so next time out, it's another movie review. It goes over to you. It's your choice. So what do you got for us, Derek?
All right. Well, I mentioned at the top of the show that I just watched the brand new Marvel film, Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yes.
So I'm going to have you go back and watch the Wolverine film Logan from 2017. I assume you have not seen this before.
No, I didn't even know it existed. I've heard of Wolverine, but I've never heard of Logan. What is it?
So
is it the same guy in it?
Yeah. The idea is that this is the end of Wolverine's story. This is him as an old
I don't
man.
even know the beginning of Wolverine's story.
You don't even need to know it. It's self-contained. It's directed by James Mangold. It was critically acclaimed. It was actually nominated for an Oscar. It's available on Disney Plus, and you may have the option to watch it both in black and white or in color because of the kind of movie it is. They made that option. I would say if you've never seen it before, just select the regular option. But I know for me, I've seen the regular version a dozen times. If I'm going to watch it black and white this time, but that's just my personal choice. But anyway, it's called Logan. And it's from 2017. It's a Wolverine movie. It's part of the extended Marvel universe. I want you to watch this, and we'll come back next week and talk about it.
Hugh Jackman is in it, I'm assuming?
You bet he is.
Okay. All right, so we'll come back next time. We will watch Logan, and we'll come back and we'll review it. This should be interesting. Until then, I'm Chris McBride. You're Derek Myers. We want to say thanks for taking time to listen to Pop Goes Your World, the pop culture podcast for the generations.
Thanks for listening to Pop Goes Your World. You can contact Chris and Derek at popgoesyourworld.com. Please take a minute and review the podcast on iTunes or wherever you download and listen to the show.